All right, folks, welcome. We're going to pick up where we left off last week and continue to build out the rest of our WordPress environment using CloudFormation. We just get some music going here in the background. I'm testing out the Amazon Music extension. So if you're an Amazon Music subscriber, I think you have to be. You can listen to the same tunes that I am, but you shouldn't be able to hear them in the channel. You gotta follow along with Amazon Music. So you can see we got our handy checklist here. Made a bit of progress last week with a couple things, kind of jumped around a little bit. I think what we'll do is we'll set up our encryption keys for KMS, and we're going to encrypt EBS volumes, we're going to encrypt the database, we're going to encrypt the shared file system with EFS. So let's get that out of the way. I think we started a shell of one last week, yeah. And what I did was I just put in kind of the general admin properties, I guess. And what we need to do is add into this those different services. The easiest way I know how to do this, I don't know if it's the most efficient, but generally what I do is we're going to use customer managed keys. You can see our key here. What we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the keys that have already been generated, and they should all look the same. So if we go in and look at this, we'll have essentially the same set of actions, but where it gets interesting is on the conditions. So I think what we're going to try, oh hey Kevin, I think what we're going to try is in a condition we can put multiple values here. So these string equals, so it must come from service Fsx and come from this account ID. If we put multiple entries here, they are evaluated as OR statements. So I think what we're going to try to do is tie a bunch of services together, because if I look at these, we've also got RDS, right? Pretty much the same thing. We'll double check all these. You can see the only difference is really where it comes from. And then if we look at EBS, right? This comes from EC2. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to add another statement here. And we're going to say effect is allow. Hey, Kevin, could you confirm for me that you don't hear music in the channel? And it's going to be AWS star. Maybe. There we go. Star. And then the action is going to be the same as what we have over here. So KMS encrypt. No music. All right, perfect. I don't want to get a strike against me. 5 hours. Is that what this song's called? I just grabbed a playlist. Didn't really give it much thought. So we'll add these statements. And then we'll add the condition. So we're going to say string equals KMS caller account. Or sorry, actually let's do this. Via service. And I think this is where we can do this. I don't know if this is going to work. I've never tried it like this before. So we're just going to see what happens. So we're going to say EC2 dot, and then we're going to jam in some, yeah, it's slowly getting better. I'm still forgetting where some of the stuff is, but I guess eventually if we just keep at it, right? So we'll use the sudo parameter and then say it should just be AmazonAWS.com, yeah. Okay. And And I think if I'm understanding this right, it'll be interesting to see how this works. So we'll say RDS. And then we also needed, what did I say? EFS, which, let's grab this whole thing. And then we should be able to say KMS caller account, and we'll run another sub command here, and we're just going to pass in account ID. All right, and I think that's all we need. All right, that's the statement that we already have, which is the catch-all up here. Let's have a look at, I don't know what one we were in there. Encrypt, decrypt. See, we've got create grants, list grants. So some of these look slightly different. I think we'll just add it here. Those all look the same. And then Fsx. Yeah, I think these are all pretty much the same. Let's try this and see what it does. So since we've already deployed this, just an update, and it'll tell us right away if I'm way off. Let's jam this over here like this. Okay, well, it didn't fail immediately. Okay, well, it validated. This is the one we're interested in right here. Go back over here and go to CloudFormation. And that's our stack. Okay, it looks like that's today. Let's see what we got. Yep, so it's just modifying the key. You can see what we're changing here is the key policy. All right. No replacement, so that's good. Let's just execute it. Sorry, there we go. Get rid of that. Okay, well, then in theory what we've got here is you jinxed me. So all these are in that one statement now. And we also added EBS. Okay. So in progress, we got our VPC. I redeployed everything as I got started today. We did the two of our 3 endpoints. So let's have a look at SSM now. Now SSM is a bunch of services. Yeah, I guess services. So we're gonna have to have a look here and see if we can find, it might be actually better if I do AWS SSM VPC endpoint. So see this, we've got a bunch of different services here. I think there's a list if I remember this somewhere. Oh, this is interesting. If you don't allow your instance's access to the internet. Create a VPC endpoint for Cloudwatch logs. So let's add that on here too, because we will set up Cloudwatch logs. Okay. Yeah, here's the list I was after. Okay, so there's the endpoint service, calls from SSM, VSS enabled snapshots. We've already got this EC2 service in. That's in this one right here. This endpoint is required only if you're connecting to your instances through a secure data channel. So I would like to use Session Manager. This way we don't have to deploy a Bastion host. So we will do that one. It's optional, but can create it if you want. Key management service encryption for a Session Manager or parameter store. And we've got the gateway endpoint already for S3. We did that. So you can see here we've got to create potentially quite a few connections. So let's go back here. And I think I'm going to copy this because this will get us part of the way there. Okay, so we'll say SSM. The security group's going to be the same. We'll change the description. We could, you know, it's interesting. This is the same security group for everything. Like for all the VPC endpoints. If we scroll back up here, I think it was right at the beginning. I saw in here somewhere, or I thought I did. Yeah, 443. So let's do this instead. Let's go like this, new file. Because there's no sense in recreating that security group, right, a bunch of times if the ports are all the same. So we're going to do this. We're going to say create security group for VPC endpoints. I think that makes more sense, and we're going to use that for, well, I'll leave for WP deploy in here just so it's easy to find later. None of this will change. Actually, some of it will, right? So this is all we need in here now. So we can do this. Interface endpoint used for what we'll say is AWS services in WP deployment. Okay. Now the rest of this won't change. We're already passing in the VPC stack, so that's fine. Instead of this, we'll say SG0, and then we'll use these as imports into the other ones. And I think if we look at this, we want to pass out just the logical ID, but let's see. Let's have a look at return values. Logical ID returns the resource ID, so that's all we need. So we'll just say ref0 or ref SG0, and then I guess we can just copy this, right? Get rid of that. Okay, so that means then we don't need it for the S3 endpoint because that's a gateway endpoint. Remember, that's in the route table. So what we need is we get rid of this. No longer depends on, because the security group is created outside of this. We still need the VPC stack, and we will need to pass in the SG stack now. Right? Because what we'll do here, and what was it? Just ID? Yeah, dash ID. I think this is a more efficient way to do this. Okay, so that's good. close this. We don't need our endpoint type in here anymore, but the rest of these we need. Okay. Let's have a look at our script here, our deploy script. So we're going to add in right here. We will say SG. And the SGs are tied to the VPC, so we'll do it right here. We'll say, I want to separate them out, so we'll say endpoint security group deploy. Copy something a little smaller. So we'll say and let's just double check. So we need to pass the VPC stack in because it's going to use those to create it, which we should have somewhere else here. Yeah, right here. And we'll say okay. Let's try this and just see how badly I've just messed this up. So we
on your calendar, demand
Alexa,
live.
stop. Let's see what happens. Oh, I know that one. I do that all the time. So we've got to add the deploy statement up here. So we're going to put it, oh, sorry, no. What have I done wrong here? This needs to come after the VPC, before the endpoint. Try that again. Okay, there's our security group. Should really just have the one thing, right? Yeah, adding a security group. And my execute button's over here. Now I don't know, I can't remember already if I changed the other file. All right, so now we've got that common security group. Let's go here. Okay, we did change it. So that means if we look at, if we go down here and look at endpoint deploy, this should have a change set for it. It doesn't. Why not? What did I do wrong? I was expecting to see this referring to the new security group. So let's check it again. SG stack. When is this from? That's from today. See there? I think what I'm going to do, we're not really using this right now anyways, so let's just nuke it, and we're going to rerun that deploy and see what it does. If this works, then what we'll do is we'll just copy the EC2 endpoint into the SSM one, and then we can just tie it all to the same security group at that point. Okay, that's our new one. So let's just rerun that one. Oh, look, it failed. What did it? SG stack must have a value. So mystery solved. I didn't need to deploy. I didn't need to blow that up. So what we need is we need SG stack, and we know the name is right where? Here. It's always the easiest, right? So we'll go here and say SG stack. All right. And I'm feeling pretty good. Famous last words. So we're going to go over here. We can get rid of this. SG stack. Right? None of this actually, sorry, that doesn't exist anymore. And then here, we're going to actually have to come up with multiple endpoints for this because we've got a bunch here, right? So the first one is SSM, but at least we can just go like this. Let's check this and see, we can pass multiple subnet IDs. I don't think we can pass multiple service names. Probably that would say service names instead of service name, but let's check anyways. It'll save some code maybe. I want to say it's just a single thing. Yeah, it's just a string. Okay, so what we'll do, not that. Point 1. Oh, look, we also have to get rid of this depends on, since that's deployed elsewhere now. And System Manager uses Endpoint to make calls from SSM to the System Manager service. So I think we need that one as well. I find some of these descriptions not, at least to me, not very clear, but... Oh, you know, one other thing I should mention is, I don't know if we talked about this in the last session or not. These endpoints, we're going to double check, but the gateway endpoints, I don't think there's any cost for those, but for the interface endpoints there are. So this is going to add to our bill. We've got the EC2 one already. We know this is required because we're talking to systems, not systems manager. We want to use this session manager. And then we need, let's put KMS in here. So that becomes 3, and then this becomes KMS. Oops. Okay. And then we can just do this. So we have 4 totals. 4 total, not totals. So that's 1, 2. So that'll give us the endpoints, I think, of each of the ones. I can't remember what this export value does now. Okay, so that's all, everything we need for the SSM endpoints. Here's our recreated one. Okay. Take this. The rest of this will all stay the same. We have to let this one finish now, because remember we did this a couple times last week. If we push this out, it'll fail on this one. Oh, yeah, we're putting everything in Endpoint Deploy. Okay, while that's running, let's do AWS CloudWatch. Okay, we are in the Canadian region, so it's supported there. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. Remember that we can put a access policy on these, or sorry, an endpoint policy. We're going to leave them just the defaults. Doesn't say anything about, not that I see, the security group, so we'll leave it the same. In this case, we only need the one. Oops. And we want to make this logs. Right. Oh, look what I did up here. That's got to be SSM. And I didn't call it logs over here, but let's redo this. Okay. And we do have to add a few more statements up into our endpoint work here. Right? Okay. Let's go back over here to pipeline. See, our pipeline failed here last time. Why did it fail? Oh, SG stack. I thought I had that in there. SG stack. Let's see if it fails again. I don't know if that was if I'm getting mixed up on the deploy or not. And while it's doing that, let's do interface endpoint pricing and see what this is going to cost us. We're in Canada. All right, so pricing per VPC endpoint per AWS, or per AZ. So if I've got a math right, let's think about what we've got here. Per VPC endpoint per AZ. So we're not going to worry about that. We have one here, but it's spread across two AZs, right? So we've got two there. We've got two here. SG doesn't matter. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I've done my math right, that is 12 VPC endpoints. Okay. Total. So basically 6 in each availability zone. So what is 0.011 times 12? Why am I doing this? Let's do it this way. 0.011 times 12. Oh, wait, hold on. That's not right. That's per hour. Pricing per... Okay, so we could do it this way. We could basically say in a month, if we do 732 hours as our base for a month, it's going to be 0.011. So each endpoint is going to cost us, let's say, $8.05. And if we time that by 12, then we've got about, wow, about 96 bucks a month. Could somebody verify my math for me? If you use 732 hours in a month, does that make sense? So in my brain, it's 732 times 0.011, and then times that by the number of endpoints we have. In our case, it's going to be 12. Somebody do that math for me. And while they're doing that, oh, look at that. We got an early failure this time. What did I do wrong? Unresolved. Oh, look. What am I in here? SSM. So I must have left one of those depends on somewhere. Yeah, see? Right there. We have to do that. I have too many files open here. Okay. And then we should actually check logs because I copied this, so that's got to go there too, right? $96. You know, I think that's kind of a cost that is like, at least in my opinion, like a NAT gateway. It's kind of one of those things that I would argue that a NAT gateway is just a cost that you have to, it's like almost like a tax, right? Like if you're going to build a VPC, you've got resources in private subnets, you want those resources to get out to the internet, you're going to have NAT gateways, and you're going to have a single NAT gateway for every availability zone, and they are 30 bucks and change a month. Oh, I got another failure. Let's do some math on that one too, but let's check this failure first. SSM, unresolved endpoint type. What have I done wrong here? Let's close these down again. So there's endpoint type. A little bit aggressive cut and pasting. So I got to go back up here. I took this out for some reason. Remember, there's 3 different types of endpoints, right? Where did we put that? After project. Okay, and I probably removed it from here too. Cut and paste always seems like a good idea until it doesn't do what you want. User error, right? So added missing. And before we actually do this, let's go back here. Yeah, there's endpoint type getting passed in for each of those. Okay, let's try this again. Yeah, so $100, roughly $100 for 12 endpoints. Now you think again, if you end up in a 3 AZ deployment, you're adding 6 more, so now you're up to 18, if I'm thinking about this the right way. And let's do this. Go AWS VPC Pricing. And down here we should see somewhere NAC gateways. So price per NAC gateway per hour. Yeah, and we're not, yeah, you have to remember too, I guess I didn't look on that endpoint page, but they're going to charge you for data processing as well. So if we do the same math on this one, we say 732 bucks times, what's it, 0.05. Yeah, about 36 bucks a month for a NAC gateway, not thinking about the data transfer. And if you've got 2 AZs like we do, then you're looking at 72 bucks for the NAC gateway, the 2 NAC gateways, 1 in each AZ, and then you got about 100 bucks for the endpoints. And then here, data processing per month. Okay, at least they're only charging you 1 cent per gig of data processed for the first petabyte of data. So still gonna add up, right? But I kind of consider those, like I said, I think they're kind of must-haves, so it's just a cost of using the platform. Okay, we made it further this time. Didn't like our SSM deploy. Duplicate export names. Oh, okay. Again, too many quick cut and paste. Yeah, see this? So I'll say, what do we want to call this? Endpoint 0. Or you know what? We could make these a little more descriptive, couldn't we? So this is SSM. This is what we'll say EC2 message. Then we have SSM message. And then we have KMS. All right, whoops. Yeah, I think Kevin, it is. It's kind of just a nature of the beast, I think. That's why I call it a tax. It's kind of like a consumption tax. I'd love them to drive the prices down, obviously, but yeah. My session expired. Give me 1 sec. We're gonna do the... Oh, I didn't check that tonight. Green screen fail. Green, all right. So this is the one that we redeployed, so we shouldn't have anything there. Yeah, failed change sets. Here's our Cloudwatch log endpoint. So let's execute that. And then here's the big one. Let's execute that too. Looks like I'm gonna have to do some walking after this. Maybe a couple laps after around the block. I'm close to my daily goal on the old Fitbit, so I just got my. You're so close. All right, so didn't fail right away, which is usually our guide for progress. So we could say now that this is done, right? You know, here's something, Kevin, I have to ask Jeff about, because he used to have really cool little, he had a nice system for his checklist that he would create when he was writing his echo skills. And I can't remember what he did for his. I'm gonna have to ask. All right. Oh, let's do this. All right. There we go. Hey, Scoobwalk, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so that's pretty good. This one's going to take a bit of time. Oh, there we go. Just need to refresh. Yeah, I just liked the way he created those and tracked them. Maybe I'll have a look at his GitHub repo. I'm sure it's in there. All right, so we need our file system, our shared file system. So let's do this one next. And we will borrow from the top of this one again, because we know we're going to need at least this, right? And close that, and let's go. Yeah, I am here in the right spot. Actually, I could just do this. What am I doing? Not EC2, I want EFS. There we go. So we need, if you remember, I think we've done this once before. I think we need to create the file system, and then remember we need a mount point in each of the AZs that we've created. So in our case, we've got 2 AZs, 2 private subnets. So we'll need the mount points there, and we also need a security group. So I think what we'll do is, this is a security group that's specific to the endpoints. So then let's do up here, we'll create another security group file, and we'll borrow from the beginning of this one. Okay, create SG for, we'll just say AWS services, okay? And then we'll put the placeholder here. All right, so let's start this at least. So it's gonna be, like we always do, EFS 0. And we'll walk through these. So availability zone name, used to create a file system that uses one zone storage classes. Specifies the AWS availability zone in which you want to create the file system. So we want to do that. We're going to use a multi-AZ deployment, so we don't need to worry about that one. Use the backup policy to turn automatic backups on or off for the file system. We're going to not put this in, but I think if I remember, EFS is automatically backed up by the AWS backup service. So we'll check that. Bypass policy lockout safety check. I don't even know what that is. It's not required. And it sounds bad to bypass a safety check. So yeah, we're not going to bypass the safety check. Encrypted. If true, creates an encrypted file system. Yeah, and this is where we need the, we're going to use our key. So this is just going to be true. The file system policy, Kevin, if you remember when we did this before, this is what screwed us up. But I'm going to leave it blank, but we might have to check one. We'll create one by through the console to see what gets set in the file system policy, because I can't remember what we did that one time. It was a while ago, so I forget already. And then our tags. I'm going to leave the tags to the end like I always do, and this is what we need. So we're going to say KMS key ID, and we'll put our handy to-do item in here. We're not going to do any lifecycle policies. Remember, lifecycle policies allow us move storage or move data from the standard storage class into infrequent access storage class. So it's a good way to lower your costs, but in our case, we don't want to do that. We'll use general purpose, which is the default. We're not going to use provision throughput. We don't need throughput mode because that's, again, default is bursting, so we'll leave that. That's it. I feel like I'm missing something here, but I guess when we run this, it'll tell us, right? We needed this, file system tags. And it's a list, so it should probably, yeah, okay. We can just borrow from here. No, we can't. We can do this. All right. Now this, what we're going to do is we're going to use exports and imports again. So we're going to say KMS stack. We'll pass this in dynamically. It's a string, and we will borrow from here. And we just need to get the output. We are looking for, I usually use the key ID, but let's just see what it's after. Yeah, key ID. A lot of times with these, you can use the key ID or the ARN of it. Yeah, see here, so there's the key ID or the ARN. Oh, look, you can even use an alias if you wanted. I didn't know that. This is the thing that I would always check, because I do notice some slight differences between the services on how they do this, but I'm going to use the key ID. So we'll just dump that in there. Okay. So go back up here. Oops. I gotta make this window a little bigger for this. I like the half screen, but not working well there. So we'll say EFS. And this will create, I don't know what this is actually going to do, because, yeah, we're not going to deploy this yet because we need the mount targets. And I don't know what will happen if we deploy the EFS file system without the mount targets. I think it creates some default ones, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's just avoid that situation by adding some mount targets ourselves, okay? I was curious how this was going to play out. I thought the system generated it, but wasn't sure. Yeah, my recollection is if you create it through the management console, it created a default policy for you. If you created it programmatically, either through CloudFormation or some other infrastructure as code tool, or if you ran like an Amazon SDK call, make an API call, that you had to go back and put the key policy, or not the key policy, sorry, the file system policy in. But at least this time I kind of have some recollection of what we did, so we won't get hung out like we did last time. All right, so that's the first piece. And then we need the mount target. Okay, so we'll just say, we'll just call it MT0, just to cut down the typing. Oh, and we want to put a depends on here, because without our file system, that's not going to work. So we'll do that. File system ID. I think it's just a ref, but we'll check. So I'm just going to put the to-do in there. Oh yeah, we need a security group too. Okay, so we need security groups, can't spell, and then we need a subnet ID. Lots of to-dos. Okay, so security group, we're gonna put that over here. So we'll just say we'll just do EFS SG0. That is, why is that yelling at me? There we go. All right. Group description is required. Group name, we will let CloudFormation do that for us. We're not going to change the egress. We are going to set up the ingress, because remember, by default, that is deny all. So this is where we have some decisions to make. What we've got here is, if I think about what we've built so far, actually, let's go look at this. So we'll go over to the VPC. We'll filter on the WordPress VPC. And we'll just look at the subnets we've created. Okay. So public subnets, things that need direct access to the public internet, we probably don't want those, whatever those resources are, and there really shouldn't be a whole lot, if anything, deployed in there, except for AWS managed services like the NAT gateway. We're going to deploy a load balancer in there. So I don't want, what we could in theory do here is we could just put in the CIDR IP, we could put just the entire VPC and let anything in the VPC connect to this. But I think a better way to do it is tie this to specific subnets. It does mean, though, that we're going to have more rules, and we may have to go back and have a look at some of the outputs here, because I don't, oh, you know what? Let's have a look at something. Let me find VPC subnets. Is it just called EC2 subnet? Yeah, there it is. We can't get... Okay, hold on. I was going to say you can't get the CIDR range for the subnet. But if we go back to security group, ingress, so what we could do, we could think about this a different way. Instead of giving access at the subnet level, what we're going to do is we're going to do some chaining of security groups. So we're going to do this. We're going to say WordPress security group 0. We're going to create a bunch of security groups right now. ALB security group 0. Okay. And let's get all these defined, because then we can use we can basically say, if you're coming from this security group rather than an IP range or anything like that, allow it to talk to, in this case, NFS. So we're going to go like this. Properties. We're going to say 80 and 443 to the ALB. And we'll make a little note here. Public. Okay. Is it security ingress? Security group ingress. Okay, and we're going to say here, since this is on the public internet, we're going to say from anywhere, right? Okay, so that'll handle that. Let me just check the case. I think it's lowercase. What am I looking for? Protocol. Oh, it's IP protocol. Yeah, just okay. And I need a dash here because we're creating a couple rules. Okay. Now, there's a few other things we need to add here. We need the VPC ID. Remember that a security group is tied to a VPC, right? So we'll use our handy import statement again. Okay, and that'll be VPC stack. We've got that here already, but I don't remember what the output was again. Okay, there isn't anything. So this is the VPC ID. So we can actually just do that. Okay, and then we need tags. Whoops. And we can steal tags. All right, so that's the first one. And this is where we can start getting fancy. So we'll do type now this depends on ALB SG0, and I'll show you why here. Properties. So we just grab this. Okay. And we're going to say allow 80 to the WP servers. This is too specific. Because I'll show you why it's too specific here in a second. Allow, we'll just say inbound traffic to the WordPress servers. Okay. Yeah, Kessler, you're right. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? The import value is really good, but we don't necessarily always use it because you're exactly right. It's really easy to break everything down into pieces. But later, if you have to go back and change stuff, sometimes that import value intrinsic function can get in the way. So I'll tell you what we normally do. We break everything down into these little tiny templates because we don't quite know how somebody might want to use the templates. So in those cases, we just allow for parameter inputs. But when we're building what we call a solution, where we're taking a bunch of templates and, you know, this, as an example, this template for security groups is very specific for the WordPress implementation. So it's meant to be tied to that overall solution. Then we always use the imports because it does allow us to keep everything in those little modular pieces, but tie them together. So yeah, it's hard to track later, and you can end up in some head scratching situations when you try to run an update and it then says, oh, but you've got this other import value coming in from somewhere and you can't change that value. It's a little odd, but I agree, it's really powerful. I think it's way better than there used to be. You used to be able to do, I always get the terms mixed up. You could nest a stack, so you would have like your main stack, which would then call other stacks, which was powerful, but you had outputs getting passed back as inputs, and I didn't like it. And this idea of kind of chaining them together with export values from one stack becoming import values in another stack, I think is way more powerful. You just got to be careful with it. You do also need to decide on a naming convention for the, yeah, exactly. It's very similar to if you were using the parameter store, right? If you need a naming standard in the parameter store before you start messing around, because it'll be a nightmare later on. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to use this instead of the CIDR IP. So we're going to say source security group ID is ref ALBSG0. Okay, and let me just check to make sure that is what is pushed out by the ref. Yeah, it returns a resource ID, so we should be okay there. Okay, so now the rest of this looks exactly the same. So we're going to say description, and this is why I didn't want to put anything specific in the group description. So we're going to say allow, what did we do in the other one? Just 80 from ALB. Okay, so we're not going to do end-to-end encryption. We're gonna put a cert on the load balancer, and then I know, let it go unencrypted from the load balancer to our WordPress server here. From port 80 to port 80, okay, and then IP protocol is TCP. All right. Now, so if you think about the load balancer, we're allowing from the public internet 80 and 443. We'll redirect any 80 to 443, so that's no big deal. Load balancer's behind that, and we're going to use Session Manager to access the load balancer. So this really could be, we could just say allow inbound, well, it's always that, inbound 80 from the ALB. The reason I hesitated on the group description before was because I was thinking about the fact that I would put SSH in here sometimes too, but we're going to use Session Manager instead, so this is the only rule we need in here. Exports, import values, both dependencies and decoupling. Stacks were dependencies and coupling, which was horrible. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Before the exports and imports were an option, we used the nesting all the time. Still a good way to kind of build a complete stack, or a complete solution, maybe is a better way to say it. But man, did it ever get ugly. Okay, so we got that. Let's continue on this. We're going to say RDS SG0, and I don't feel like typing all of this again, so we're just going to do this exact same thing. Okay. Now this doesn't depend on the load balancer, because what we're going to say here is allow the WordPress servers to talk to the database servers. So we're going to say WP, I already forget, SG0, and we're going to use MySQL, so 3306 from the WP servers to RDS. Okay, so this will be WP SG0. Okay. Now this would be something We could debate this on how this is going to work, because what I'm thinking is in most cases you're probably going to want to get to the WordPress server maybe through a Bastion host or through a VPN connection, but it also depends on where we decide to deploy the RDS instance. So we might come back and adjust this later, but for now that'll do the trick. Okay, so we've got our load balancer, our WordPress, our RDS database, and now I think we can do this one. So we'll say depends on, and we want the WordPress machines to be able to see this. So we'll do this. And in this case, it's 2049 for NFS from the WP servers. All right. Fingers crossed. I think that covers everything. So what we're going to do is just add our outputs. And I got to go look at the outputs again. So let's go back here. All I'm going to dump out of here is the SG IDs. Yeah, I agree. SSM is the way that we do it always now. And the fact that you can do it through the console or just with a CLI command makes it really powerful. Plus, you can get rid of the Bastion, so you reduce the cost of running that EC2 instance, right? 24 hours a day. I guess you could put it in some sort of scripting to turn it on and off when you need it, but most people don't. And then you don't have that public resource, right? So I think it's a really great way to do it. So let's just do this. So we'll say value say we'll just do ALB SGID like that, just sort of following what we've got before. Oops. I'm missing a single quote, aren't I? You know, I don't want to type this every time. So we've got RDS, and then we've got EFS. Okay. EFS. Hopefully we don't have any typos here. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer. All right, so let's add this to our basic CloudFormation validation. You know, I was thinking, I think what we're going to do is we're going to roll either CloudFormation Guard into this, or maybe Regula from Fugue. Thought it might be something interesting just to figure out how it works. So we'll do that. And I'm just gonna paste it at the bottom here. Okay, so we'll just call this we'll need that VPC stack to push everything in, right? Don't need that. think that's it. Let's go back and have a look. What else did we push in here? Just the VPC stack. Project gets jammed in. Yeah, okay. That's a lot of changes. Let's see if I get lucky or not. That's got to go after this, so we'll just put it here. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's after the VPC. And I'm going to add here. Again, if we're still interested by the time we get through all this, we've got a couple options here at the end. Checks failed, 3 to-dos. Did I leave a bunch of to-dos somewhere? Oh, that's okay. I don't even think I have that in the deploy yet. Let's see if it actually pushed or not. Oh yeah, there we go. Commit anyways. Tell me more about conventional commits. I'd be interested to learn. I know enough to be dangerous. And you kind of get stuck in your pattern, right? So I love to hear what you're thinking about. Oh, look nicer. Okay, like just a standard. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you've been on the stream before, but most of my commits are typos. Kevin knows that. Oh, yeah, I did put EFS here somewhere. Oh, I put it in the validate here. So we'll just do this for now. It makes a lot of sense to do that because there's 4 of us making commits here normally. This is just my little demo repo, so it's usually just me. But I like the idea because with multiple people committing to it, yeah, it can get ugly. Especially when somebody's being very brief in what they're doing, and then you go back and look at it and you have no clue what they're talking about. So that's a good suggestion. Too many changes here. Line 62. Probably too many cut and paste somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Beauty of cut and paste. Oh, hey, Kesser, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate that. Kevin knows exactly what I'm going to say here. Every week I say I need some little notification configs, and then I get busy with real life stuff, and then somebody gives me a follow, and I'm like, I should add that. Line 74. Is it still complaining about the same one? SG, yeah. Oh, yeah, look. Is that the only one that did that? Yeah, the rest of those look lined up. Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned this spec because we've been thinking about / creating a yeah, the beauty of cut and paste. Crap, did it fail again, or is that new? We've been thinking about and sort of trying to come up with a bit of a spec for commits and stuff. 107 now. Yeah, I thought I fixed this. Oh, maybe. Okay, that one's okay. That one's okay. I like this little, I think it's just called Rainbow for PyCharm. Keeps you sane with YAML. Try this again. One of these times, Kevin, I'll clip when I never think about it till after. I'll take a little clip of the beauty of cut and paste at some point. Oh, I like the idea of enforcement. Yeah. I know, like, sometimes I'm better at making good commit messages versus others. Like if I'm tired or frustrated versus, you know, lots of energy and stuff. Like right now, I'm starting to get to the point where my commit messages would get smaller. For line 107 again. What am I missing? Oh, for crying out loud. What happened to this last cut and paste here? I think this week, Kevin, we've up until right now, we went on a pretty good run of some good. Well, actually, looking at this, maybe not. Less spelling mistakes this time around. Yeah, yeah, I'm using the JetBrains IDE. Yeah, read a lot of Python code, so I just tend to stay in here. I know some of the other guys they'll use PyCharm when they're writing Python and then switch to oh, what's the other one? Atom, I think it is. Template error, variable names, VPC stack. I think VPC stack is the only thing we're pushing in here, isn't it? So we have VPC stack there. Validate template, still failing. Are you? I don't know why it started out. It didn't like that, I guess. Are you talking about the like the CloudFormation plugin or AWS tools? No, it's not AWS toolset. I know at some point there was a CloudFormation plugin for this, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And it also was slowly getting more and more out of date. So if that's what you're talking about, I don't anymore. Template error, variable names in FN sub. Oh, shit, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking up there when it's, again, bad cut and paste. Is there a good autocomplete for CloudFormation and VS Code? I think at one point the one that existed for PyCharm was pretty good, and then I haven't tried it for a while, but I remember reading some of the reviews and just it was getting out of date. There we go. The little victory symbol that we use because I don't have any animations. Yeah, we used to do JSON, and yeah, I prefer reading this. I find it easier to read. All right, so here we go. I'll just make this a little bigger so we can have a look at it. So we should have a bunch of, yeah, there's all our security groups. Okay. I think this is a way better way to do the chaining the security groups together rather than thinking about what I originally was thinking was putting CIDR ranges into the mount target security groups, but didn't want to do the entire VPC. So I think this is a better way to do it. Yeah, exactly. I use the oh, I never wrote a function to do it, but that's a great way to do it, converting your templates. Yeah, it's good. I love the fact now, for a long time, right, they only had the JSON examples, and now you can at least select, you know, show me both or show me one or the other. All right, so that's great. And now we have, there's our EFS security group. So let's go back over here and we'll go EFS and we'll validate or verify what this is passing. It's usually, if we look at the return value, yeah, so that's the file system reference. So we can go here and just say ref EFS 0. And this is where we'll use, we'll say SG stack again. All right, and we'll just grab, because it's handy right here. Drop this here, say SG stack. And I already forget what we called that output, so let's go down here. This one. Going the wrong way. There we go. Ooh. Try one more time here before I start typing. There we go. All right, and then we need the subnet IDs. So we'll say VPC stack. And I want to say this is just private subnet 0, but we'll check. So if we find this, let's make this screen a little bigger. Outputs. Yeah, okay, so it's that. There's another reason why you want to make sure. Okay, I've got it right. You want to make sure that you've got a standard for those exports. And then we'll just hopefully cut and paste again. Right, because we need a mount target for each of the AZs we're in. And if I remember, let me check actually. I hope we're only in 2. We don't really need to be in any more than 2. Yeah, the documentation is much better. I still find every once in a while a little issue here and there, but it's light years ahead of where it was. And I can imagine that documenting this is a challenge. Yeah, okay, so we're just in 2. So we'll say private subnet 1. That's all the same. And let's see what we get for outputs here. We'll just do this, EFS 0. I don't think we'll need this anywhere, but we'll do it anyways just to kind of follow what we've been up to. And we'll just say EFS ID. What else is an option here? The ARN for it, the file system ID. We get that up here. I don't think we're going to need the ARN anywhere, so we'll just do that. Okay. Yeah, you know, we used to write a lot of Terraform because, I don't, rightly or wrongly, I used to think that Terraform would support new services faster than CloudFormation. And it seems that something changed somewhere along the line, and it started to kind of be service or feature would come out and be supported by CloudFormation or very quickly after. So we just started writing CloudFormation because it just wanted to be able to go to AWS if we had problems. So using a single export with multiple values joined by commas, using fn join and then split. Oh yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff, right? This is kind of a talking about, oh look, I got a spelling mistake right there. Talking about a standard, this is kind of like, or a convention. This is just kind of one of the things that me and the other folks on the team sort of did it this way. And I think it was actually in a piece of documentation that we got from Amazon, like in the CloudFormation doc somewhere. And it was simple and kind of did what we wanted. So old habits, right? But you can do some crazy stuff. So let's go like that. And then we'll just grab this. Let's go up here and add this too, because I will forget. And we know that we need SG stack as well. Which is just that, I think, is the standard one. Yeah, right there. Okay. So we've got to pass in SG stack. And that's going to be EFS. Is there anything else? Oh, we need KMS stack too. So there's our 3 stacks and then our standard stuff. And I put EFS deploy up here already, I think. Yeah, we got it there. So let's try it. Yeah, you know, we used to do that, and then we were actually just doing it a couple weeks ago where we parameterized everything, like do you want protected subnets, how many AZs, and we took what we thought was a relatively easy to use template and made it really complicated. And so we I know what you mean. It's easy to do. I think there's, like everything, there's like finding that right balance, right? Project. Did I take project out of here? Project. Oh, look, I didn't include it up here. Yeah, I just need this. And Stitched, sorry, I don't know if you're still here, but Stitch, thanked for the follow as well. Appreciate that. Welcome. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I think you got to find the right balance, right? What makes sense and what gets to a point of being, well, to use your word, over engineered. It's a challenge. All right, let's see what we got. This is in progress. And I guess we also went in here and we did, I'll call it project SGs, which is now, in theory, done, right? Which included all the SGs for the different components that we have. Did it fail on us? Okay, no. There it is. And we should just have, yeah, there's our EFS file system, the 2 mount targets. Let's execute that. See what it does. This bigger so we can read. No export named. Oh, look, I got a, yeah, oops. SG private subnet, so we got a little typo here somewhere. Oh, see what I got here? Those should be VPC stacks. Cut and paste strikes again. I think somebody should do a study on the number of times that a cut and paste actually saves you time. I bet you it's shockingly low. I have to say I'm enjoying this Amazon Music plugin. I like Pretzel, pretty neat, but this Amazon Music extension is pretty slick. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Less code is the best code. I like it. Yeah, you can't. So that's the trick with this, because it would probably, I think what I read in the extension notes is they can't stream it live because of licensing. But if you are also an Amazon Music subscriber, then you can somehow click on the little overlay that comes in on the right hand side of the screen and I think listen to the same music I'm listening to, but you would only hear it on your side. It's not in the stream. So licensing, right? On a completely different note, Kevin, how are your Pirates doing? I saw them win a couple, I thought, there. The Jays have been on a bit of a... Yeah, sign in, and then you should, Kesser, be able to hear the same stuff I'm listening to. You may or may not like what I'm listening to. What was I saying? Yeah, the Jays have been on a bit of a... I think they've lost 7 of 9. They won last night. It was a good game. Yeah, they went on a little bit of a run, didn't they? Baseball. What can you do? The Jays were in the same thing. Like they won before they went on this like 7 of 9 losing streak. I think they were on like a 10 of 14 winning streak or something like that. There we go. All right, so we have our file system. Let's go over there and have a look. Right, so we've got bursted throughput, general purpose performance, regional availability zones. It's encrypted using our custom key that we created. So that's all good. If we go to networking, this is where we should see the mount targets. Yeah, okay, so we're creating here, and then once these come to life, we should see the reference to the security group too. Yeah, I guess with the Jays, I think the Pirates are sort of the same. They're pretty young, right? So they're still learning how to win baseball games, I think, especially end of August. You know, they're what, 40 games left. It's a long season. You know, I was thinking about something today. Let's go back over here. In EFS, actually, I don't think you can do this in EFS. Maybe I'm thinking of Fsx. So we're doing an Fsx deployment for a customer right now. And if you're not familiar, Fsx is essentially, it's a shared file system for Windows. And there's 2 different versions. There's just Fsx and then there's Lustre. Lustre is meant for high performance computing, basically. Like it's a clustering. I think it's a clustered file system. But anyways, in Fsx, it's neat because you can use a DNS alias. So we're going to get this crazy reference, right? And what I liked in Fsx is you get a dynamically generated share. So // then some crazy name, and then you can connect to that for your share. But you can set an alias, and you can create whatever you want there to make it easier to remember. And in my brain, I was like, that was EFS, but I was wrong. I wanted to come back here to see if they had that same option, but they do not. This is probably done at this point. Yeah, I think that's what happens when you can't build a team, right? You just keep getting youth on the team and they keep learning how to win. Okay, what happened here? Oh, there we go. So there's our file system. Let's see if it's done. Available. So if we scroll this out, there we go. So that's the security group. So let's go look at this security group. And what it should say is it should say allow inbound on 2049, TCP 2049 from the WordPress servers that we know we don't have yet. So security groups. All right, it's got a single rule, which is hard to read. So there's our source, which if you could see it all, can I actually, yeah, it's a kind of a crappy, that make it a little easier to read. So there we go, WordPress, and that's the WordPress SG, which will have our EC2 instances in it at some point. So that's good. All right, let's look at our to-do list. Done. That's going to take a little while to do, so we'll start a stream next week with that. So I think what we should probably do, we won't start it tonight. I think I'll probably call it here. We need to create that custom machine image, and we'll get that machine image set up the way that we want. You know, we'll put the Cloudwatch unified Cloudwatch logs agent on it. I think we'll put, just to try it out, yeah, we put Amazon Inspector on here, so we'll set it all up and then make sure that it can mount that file system, the EFS file system, put that in the what's it called, the fstab file, so we know it mounts every time. And I think what we'll do is, yeah, we'll wait and start next week. Next week we'll build this out, because we kind of need the AMI, custom AMI for the EC2, not EC2, the auto scaling config, and then in front of that we'll put our load balancer. And then at that point, in theory, we should at least have the, you know, welcome to WordPress kind of thing. So we should be able to finish this next week, maybe, depending on how the AMI creation process goes. All right. So yeah, a little shorter today. We usually go for about another 15 minutes, but I think it's probably a good time to pause here. All right. So as usual, thanks everybody. I appreciate coming and hanging out with me on a Tuesday night. It's fun, and hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah, some great conversation. Kessler, thanks for hanging out. Let's see who's around tonight. I have nobody that I follow. I guess I need to follow more people. There's nobody that I follow that we can raid. Kevin, is there anybody online that we should raid that you know of? Strager? What's Strager doing? I don't even know Strager. Let me see. Oh, wrong keyboard. Hold on. Too many keyboards. Is that Strager Science and Technology? Let's do it. Let's go over there. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourself. Yeah, next time. Later, folks.